Han Sol wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked at the mining report on his tablet. The numbers were good, very good. The rare Earth deposits on Kepler 442b were bigger than anyone had hoped when they first arrived 2 years ago. His team of 43 miners had been working hard, and it was paying off. The planet was not beautiful. The sky was always gray, and the air tasted like metal. But it was home now. The small colony had grown from just a few buildings to a real settlement. They had a school, a medical center, and even a small park where children played after the artificial lights came on each evening. Han Sol walked through the main street of New Seoul Colony. The name always made him smile. It was nothing like the great city back on Earth, but the miners had voted for it anyway. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was just missing home. "Morning, Han Sol," called out Mrs. Park as she swept the front of her small shop. She sold tools and supplies to the miners, but everyone knew she was really the heart of the community. Her husband had died in a tunnel collapse last year, but she stayed strong for everyone else. "Good morning, Mrs. Park. How is business today?" "Same as always. The boys need new drill bits, and the atmospheric processors are acting up again." She stopped, sweeping, and looked worried. "Han Sol, have you heard anything strange on the communications lately?" Han Sol shook his head. As the mining supervisor, he got regular reports from Earth and the other human colonies. Everything had been normal. "What kind of strange?" "My nephew. Yu-Jin works in the communications center. He said there have been weird signals in the outer system for the past few days. Ships, maybe, but not sending proper identification codes." A cold feeling moved through Han Sol's chest. Space was big and mostly empty, but sometimes pirates or raiders came looking for easy targets. Mining colonies were always vulnerable. They had some security, but not much. "I will check with Yu-Jin after my shift," Han Sol promised. Mrs. Park nodded and went back to her sweeping, but he could see she was still worried. The day went normally until the alarms started screaming. Han Sol was deep in Tunnel 7 when the emergency sirens began. The sound echoed off the rock walls and made his ears hurt. All the miners stopped working and looked at each other with wide eyes. The alarms only went off for 3 things: cave-ins, atmospheric failures, or external threats. Everyone out of eye. "The tunnels now!" Han Sol shouted into his radio. "Emergency procedures! Move fast, but stay safe!" The miners moved quickly but carefully. They had practiced this many times. Han Sol was the last one out of Tunnel 7, making sure no one was left behind. When he reached the surface, he could see people running everywhere. Families were grabbing their children and emergency bags. The security team was setting up weapons at the colony perimeter. Yu-Jin came running toward him, his face pale and frightened. "Han Sol, you need to see this! The ships in orbit, they are not human!" They ran together to the communications center. Through the big windows, Han Sol could see dark shapes moving across the gray sky. The ships were huge and had a strange, twisted design that hurt to look at. They moved like predators, circling their prey. "Who are they?" Han Sol asked. "I do not know," Yu-Jin said, his fingers flying over the control panels. "They started jamming our communications an hour ago. I can barely get anything through to Earth or the other colonies, but I managed to record some of their transmissions." Yu-Jin played the recording. The sounds were horrible. Clicks and hisses and something that might have been laughter, but wrong. Very wrong. Even though Han Sol could not understand the alien language, the meaning was clear. These were not visitors. These were invaders. The first attack came without warning. A beam of red light shot down from one of the ships and hit the colony's main power generator. The explosion knocked Han Sol off his feet and shattered windows throughout the settlement. Emergency power kicked in, but everything was dimmer now. "They are landing!" someone screamed over the radio. Through the communications center windows, Han Sol could see large transport ships coming down like metal meteors. They landed hard, sending up clouds of dust and debris. Ramps dropped open and things came out. The creatures looked like giant insects crossed with machines. They had too many legs and arms that ended in claws or weapons. Their eyes glowed, red in the dim light. The security team opened fire, but their weapons barely scratched the alien armor. The creatures moved fast, much faster than they should have been able to move. They surrounded the defenders and began capturing people alive. They want prisoners, Hansol realized with horror. They are not here to kill us quickly. They want to take us. Yujin was frantically working at his controls. I am trying to get a message out, but their jamming is too strong. Wait, I think I found a gap in their signal blocking. What kind of message? A distress call. Emergency frequency. Maybe someone will hear it. More explosions shook the building. Hansol could hear screaming from outside. The aliens were moving through the colony systematically, building by building. They were professional. This was not their first time doing this terrible work. Send it, Hansol said. Send everything. Our location, what is happening, everything. Yujin's hands moved over the controls like a musician playing a desperate song. I can only get a few seconds before they block me again. The signal will be weak. Just do it. Yujin took a deep breath and opened the emergency channel. This is New Sol Colony on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by unknown alien forces. They are taking prisoners. Coordinates are attached to this message. Please help us. Please, anyone who can hear this. We need help. The transmission lasted exactly 7 seconds before the jamming came back stronger than before. The communications equipment sparked and went dead. Did it go through? Hansol asked. I think so. Maybe. I do not know if anyone was listening. The door to the communications center exploded inward. 3 of the alien creatures came inside, their weapons ready. They looked at Hansol and Yujin with those glowing red eyes. One of them said something in their clicking language. Another alien, larger than the others and covered in more armor, entered the room. This one wore symbols that might have been rank insignia. It looked around the communications center and then spoke in broken but understandable human language. You sent message. Who you call? Hansol stood up straight, trying not to show his fear. I called for help. Human ships will come. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Human. Ship small, weak. No one help you now. You come with us. You work for Vorthak Empire now. We will never work for you, Yujin said, his voice shaking but determined. The alien leader gestured with one of its clawed hands. The 2 smaller aliens grabbed Hansol and Yujin roughly, their claws digging into human skin. You work or you die. Your choice simple. As they were dragged outside, Hansol could see the destruction of his home. Buildings were burning. The small park where children played was torn up by alien vehicles. People were being herded into groups like livestock, their faces showing terror and despair. Mrs. Park was in one of the groups. She looked at Hansol as he was dragged past, and he could see she was trying to be brave for the younger people around her. Even now, even in this nightmare, she was taking care of others. The alien ships in orbit were even bigger than they had looked from the ground. Their dark hulls blocked out large sections of the gray sky. More transport ships were landing, bringing more soldiers and strange equipment. One of the aliens near Hansol was talking into a communication device. He could not understand most of it, but he heard one word clearly. Complete. The Vorthak thought they had won completely. They thought the small human colony was just another easy conquest. They had no idea that 7 seconds of desperate transmission time would change everything. In the cold depths of space, a weak signal traveled toward human territory. It carried coordinates, a plea for help, and the beginning of something the galaxy had never seen before. The Vorthak had made their first and last mistake. They had touched humanity. The message traveled through space at the speed of light, weak but determined. It bounced off relay stations and communication satellites, each one adding a little more power to push it further toward human space. 3 days after Yu Jin sent his desperate call, it reached the outer monitoring station at Wolf 359. Lieutenant Commander So Young was drinking her morning coffee when the alert signal started beeping on her console. She was the communications officer aboard the reconnaissance vessel Soul's Pride, and she had been monitoring the frontier frequencies for 2 years. Most days were quiet. Today was different. Captain Kim, we have an emergency transmission from the Kepler system, she called out. Captain Kim Da-hyun walked over to her station. He was a serious man who had served in the Human Defense Fleet for 15 years. What kind of emergency? So Young played the message. Even through the static and interference, Eugene words were clear. This is New Sol Colony on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by unknown alien forces. They are taking prisoners. The bridge went completely silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing and listened. Captain Kim's face went hard as stone. How old is this transmission? He asked. 3 days, sir. It has been bouncing through relay stations, getting stronger each time. 3 days. Captain Kim closed his eyes for a moment. Set course for the Kepler system, maximum speed. And get me a priority channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Priority Alpha was the highest emergency code in the Human Defense Fleet. It meant immediate danger to human civilians. It meant all other missions were canceled. It meant everything else could wait. While Soul's Pride raced toward Kepler 442b, the message continued its journey to Earth. Admiral Dongmin was in his office at Terran Defense Command when his aide knocked on the door. The admiral was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes, but everyone in the fleet knew he could be as hard as steel when protecting human lives. Sir, we have a Priority Alpha emergency transmission, the aide said. Admiral Dongmin set down his reports and looked up. Show me. The aide played Eugen's message. Admiral Dongmin listened without moving, his hands folded on his desk. When it finished, he stood up slowly. How many humans on Kepler 442b? 43 confirmed residents, sir, mostly miners and their families. And this message is 3 days old. Yes, sir. Admiral Dongmin walked to his window. Outside, he could see the orbital shipyards where human warships were built. Right now, those ships looked peaceful, floating in their construction cradles, like sleeping giants. That was about to change. Send this message to every human world, every space station, every ship in the fleet. Full distribution, no delays. Sir, that will alert everyone in human space. The panic could be enormous. Admiral. Dongmin turned around. His kind eyes were now cold as space itself. Good. I want everyone to know. Someone attacked our people. Someone took our families. And everyone needs to understand what that means. Within 6 hours, Eugene's message had reached every corner of human civilization. On Earth, families gathered around their screens and listened in silence. On Mars, factory workers stopped their machines to hear the words. On the colony ships traveling to distant stars, passengers hugged their children closer. But something else was happening too. Something the aliens who attacked Kepler 442b could never have expected. In the shipyards above Luna, construction crews started working around the clock. Warships that were supposed to take months to complete were being finished in days. Workers volunteered for extra shifts without being asked. No one wanted to go home while human prisoners were waiting for rescue. On the industrial world of New Shanghai, weapons factories began producing ammunition faster than ever before. The planetary governor called it emergency production, but the workers called it something else. They called it anger. Dr. Hyun-ai was the head of Human Strategic Command, the organization that planned military operations for the entire human space. She was a small woman with sharp intelligence and a computer-like memory for details. Right now, she was looking at the biggest military mobilization in human history. "How many ships do we have ready for combat?" she asked her staff. 2,000 frontline warships, 6,000 support vessels, and 12,000 civilian ships. That can be armed, came the answer. "How many can we get to the Kepler system?" "All of them, if necessary." Dr. Hune nodded. She had been planning for something like this for years. Humanity had spread across the galaxy peacefully. But they had never forgotten that space could be dangerous. They had built their military to protect everyone, everywhere. Begin Operation Homecoming. Every available ship, every available crew. I want overwhelming force. On the frontier station at Proxima Centauri, Fleet Captain Tejo received his orders while he was eating dinner with his family. He read the message twice, kissed his wife and children goodbye, and was aboard his flagship within an hour. His battle group of 50 ships was already moving toward the Kepler system before the night was over. The same scene played out across human space. Captains left their homes, crews reported to their ships, and the great machinery of human civilization shifted into war mode. But this was not just military action. This was something deeper. On the news networks, reporters struggled to find words for what was happening. Unprecedented mobilization and largest military response in history did not capture the truth. The truth was simpler and more frightening. Humanity was angry. Captain So Young and Soul's Pride reached the edge of the Kepler system first. What they found there made So Young's blood run cold. Long-range sensors showed alien ships in orbit around Kepler 442b. Big ships, warships, and they were not leaving. "Captain, I am detecting energy signatures consistent with strip mining operations on the planet's surface," reported the sensor officer. "They are not just taking prisoners," Captain Kim said quietly. "They are taking everything." So Young enhanced the sensor readings. The alien ships were huge, much bigger than any human vessel. Their design was aggressive and predatory. These were not explorers or traders. These were conquerors. "How many ships?" Captain Kim asked. "At least 200. "Sir, maybe more hiding behind the planet." Captain Kim looked at his small reconnaissance ship. Soul's Pride was fast and well-armed for its size, but it was one ship against 200. A fair fight was impossible. But Captain Kim was not thinking about fair fights. "So Young, get me a tight beam transmission to Admiral Dong Min. Full encryption." "Yes, sir." "Admiral, this is Captain Kim reporting from Kepler 442b. The situation is worse than we thought. Large alien fleet in control of the system. Estimate 200-plus warships. They appear to be strip mining the planet and taking all resources. No sign of human survivors, but that does not mean they are gone. These aliens seem to prefer prisoners to bodies. Requesting immediate reinforcement. We will maintain observation. Position until relieved." The message raced back toward Earth at light speed. But Captain Kim did not wait for a reply. He knew what it would say. Help was coming. Lots of help. Back on Earth, Admiral Dong Min read Captain Kim's report and felt his worst fears confirmed. This was not a random attack by pirates or raiders. This was a professional military operation by an organized alien species. They had come to Kepler 442b with a fleet large enough to conquer worlds. "They made a mistake," Admiral Dong Min said to his staff. "They think because we are peaceful, we are weak. They think because we spread across the galaxy slowly, we cannot move fast when we need to. They are about to learn how wrong they are." The Admiral opened a secure channel to every human military commander in the galaxy. His message was simple and direct. "This is Admiral Dong Min, Terran Defense Command. By now you have all heard the message from Kepler 442b. 43 human civilians are prisoners of an alien military force. This cannot stand. This will not stand. Operation Homecoming is now active. Every ship, every crew, every weapon we have is authorized for use. The objective is simple. Rescue our people and make sure this never happens again. No human left behind. no exceptions. Across human space, the response was immediate. Shipyards worked day and night. Supply convoys formed up for the journey to Kepler. Weapons were loaded, shields were charged, and engines were prepared for the longest journey many ships had ever made. But the most important response came from ordinary humans. Families who had never seen military service volunteered to help. Load supplies. Children sent letters of support to the crews. Entire colonies held vigils for the prisoners on Kepler 442b. The aliens had taken 43 humans. In response, humanity was preparing to send a force larger than most galactic empires could field. The message was spreading to other species, too. Human diplomatic channels carried news of the attack to alien governments across the galaxy. Most of them responded with sympathy but little else. Attacks on frontier colonies were common in space. Usually, the victims just disappeared and were forgotten. But humanity was not most species, and this attack was about to become very, very different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Fleet Admiral J. Wook stood in the command center of Terran Defense Headquarters and watched the largest military mobilization in human history unfold. Giant displays showed ships moving from every corner of human space, all converging on a high single point, the Kepler system. Admiral J. Wook was the best military commander humanity had ever produced. He had served for 30 years, from small patrol ships to massive battle cruisers. He had studied every famous battle in history, human and alien alike. But he had never seen anything like this. "Status report," he ordered. Colonel Min Jung stepped forward with her tablet. She had been working for 18 hours straight, coordinating the movement of thousands of ships. Her uniform was wrinkled and her eyes were tired, but her voice was steady. "Admiral, we have confirmed movement from all major fleet commands. The Luna Battle Group will arrive first, followed by the Mars Defense Fleet and the Centauri Strike. Force. Total ships committed, 18,000 combat vessels, 30,000 support ships, and over 50,000 civilian vessels volunteering for transport and supply duties." Admiral J. Wook nodded slowly. The numbers were staggering. Humanity had built this military over decades, spread across dozens of star systems. No one had ever brought it all together in one place before. What about the industrial response? Every major shipyard is working maximum capacity. New weapons are being produced around the clock. The orbital factories above Earth alone have tripled their output in the last week. Admiral J. Wook looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed the estimated position of alien forces at Kepler 442b. Blue dots showed human forces moving toward them. There were so many blue dots that they almost covered the screen. "Sir," Colonel Min Jung said quietly, "the other galactic powers are starting to notice. We have received diplomatic messages from the Zentran Federation and the Trillic Empire, asking about our fleet movements. What did we tell them?" "The truth. Human civilians were attacked. We are responding." Admiral J. Wook smiled grimly. "I wonder what they think of our response." On the other side of the galaxy, the Zentran Federation was indeed watching human fleet movements with growing alarm. Ambassador Xeltar had served as a diplomatic observer of human space for 10 years. He thought he understood these strange creatures, who spread slowly across the stars and seemed to prefer trade to conquest. He was beginning to realize he had been completely wrong. "How many ships are they moving?" asked the Federation High Council. "Our best estimate is over 100,000 vessels of various types," Xeltar reported. "This includes everything from massive dreadnoughts to converted cargo ships." The council members looked at each other in shock. The largest military operation in recent galactic history had involved maybe 10,000 ships. Humanity was mobilizing 10 times that number for a single lost colony. "What was the scale of the attack on their colony?" asked Councillor Velmoth. "Preliminary reports suggest a standard raiding force, perhaps 200 ships. The colony had fewer than 50 residents." The council chamber fell silent. 200 ships had attacked 43 humans. In response, humanity was sending 100,000 ships. "These humans," said the High Counselor slowly, "they are not what we thought they were." Meanwhile, at the shipyards above Mars, Dr. Hyun-ae was overseeing the deployment of weapons that had never been used in actual combat. The human defense fleet had spent decades developing these systems, hoping they would never be needed. Today, that hope was gone. "Status on the planet crackers?" she asked Chief Engineer Woo Jin. 12 units ready for deployment, each one capable of destroying a planet's surface down to the bedrock." "And the star killers?" 3 prototypes ready. We have never tested them on an actual star, but the simulation suggests they will work." Dr. Hyun-ae made notes on her tablet. The planet crackers and star killers were humanity's ultimate weapons, designed for the kind of total war that everyone hoped would never come. But if the aliens wanted to play rough, humanity was prepared to play rougher. "What about the reality warpers?" Chief Engineer Woo Jin looked uncomfortable. "Those are still experimental. We do not fully understand how they work. Using them could be dangerous." "More dangerous than leaving human prisoners in alien hands." "No." "Ma'am, then load them, all of them." Across human space, similar conversations were happening. Weapons were being loaded onto ships, ammunition was being manufactured in quantities that strained the supply chains, and experimental technologies were being rushed into service. But the most important preparation was happening in the hearts and minds of ordinary humans. On Earth, in the great cities and small towns, people gathered to watch the news broadcasts. They saw images of the fleet assembling, interviews with fleet commanders, and constant updates on the rescue mission. But what they really saw was something deeper. They saw that when humans were threatened, every human responded. In the city of New Beijing, factory worker Park Si-woo volunteered to work extra shifts making engine components. "My daughter is serving on a destroyer," he told the news reporter. "Every part I make might help bring her home safely." On the agricultural world of New Texas, farmer Kim Hyo-jin donated his entire harvest to feed the rescue fleet. "Food is what I can give," he said simply. "Those people on Kepler need to know we have not forgotten them." Stories like this were happening everywhere. Children collected money for the rescue effort. Retired veterans volunteered to help load supplies. Entire communities organized support for the families of fleet personnel. Captain So Young, still, watching the alien fleet from her hidden position near Kepler 442b, received regular updates on the approaching human forces. Each report made her smile a little wider. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving long-range telemetry from the advance elements of the rescue fleet. First ships will arrive in 36 hours. Captain Kim nodded. "How many ships in the first wave?" "Approximately 3,000 combat vessels, sir." Captain Kim looked at the alien fleet through his ship's sensors. 200 alien ships had seemed impossible to fight. 3,000 human ships would make this a very different kind of battle. "Any change in alien activity?" "No, sir. They seem unaware that we are here. They are continuing their mining operations and have not increased their defensive posture." "They have no idea what is coming," Captain Kim said quietly. He was right. On the surface of Kepler 442b, the Vorthak were going about their business with complete confidence. They had conquered hundreds of worlds and enslaved dozens of species. This was just another routine operation. Vorthak War Chief Morgathon stood in his command center and reviewed the daily reports. The mining operations were proceeding smoothly. The human prisoners were working adequately. Some had tried to resist, but Vorthak discipline had quickly corrected that problem. "Status of the human colony's resources?" he asked his aide. 70% of rare earth deposits extracted. Atmospheric processors dismantled for transport. Infrastructure salvage nearly complete. And the prisoners? 41 humans still alive and working. 2 died during initial resistance. All others have been conditioned for transport to the slave markets. War Chief Morgathan made approving sounds. This was exactly how a conquest should proceed. Quick, efficient, profitable. The Vorthak Empire had perfected this process over centuries. Any response from other human settlements? None detected. Our jamming systems remain in place. No human ships have entered the system. War Chief Morgathan was pleased. Experience had taught him that most species would abandon a few colonists rather than risk a larger conflict. Humans seemed to be no different. He had no way of knowing that his jamming systems, while effective at blocking transmissions from the planet's surface, could not stop the observation ship hiding in the outer system. He had no way of knowing that. Humanity had received the colonists' distress call days ago, and he had no way of knowing that the largest fleet in galactic history was about to arrive at his location. The Vorthak had made their first mistake when they attacked the colony. They were about to make their second mistake by staying to finish the job. Back in human space, the final elements of the rescue fleet were preparing to depart. Admiral Jaywook stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Inchons, Hammer, and watched the last ships join the formation. "All ships report ready for jump to Kepler system," reported his navigation officer. "Fleet composition, final count, 18,000 combat vessels, 31,000 support ships, 55,000 civilian volunteers. Total fleet size, 104,000 ships." Admiral Jaywook looked out at the vast formation stretching beyond the horizon. Ships of every size and type, from tiny fighters to massive carriers, all moving together with deadly purpose. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Today we go to bring our people home. Today we show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens humanity. Today we keep the promise that no human is ever abandoned." The message went out to every ship in the fleet. On bridges and in crew quarters, in fighter cockpits and engineering spaces, humans prepared for the largest rescue mission in their history. They were going to save 43 people. They were bringing 100,000 ships to do. To anyone else in the galaxy, this would have seemed like massive overkill. To humanity, on the surface of Kepler 442b, mining supervisor Sung Min crouched in the ruins of what used to be the colony school and tried to count how many humans were still alive. The Vorthak had been using them as slave labor for a week now, forcing them to help strip their own home for valuable resources. The aliens were efficient and brutal. They gave the humans just enough food and water to keep working. Anyone who resisted or moved too slowly was beaten with energy weapons that left painful burns. 2 people had already died from their injuries. But Sung Min had not given up hope. None of them had. "Da-un," he whispered to the engineer crouching beside him. "How many power cells did you manage to hide?" Engineer Da-un checked her pockets carefully. She had been secretly collecting small power cells from damaged equipment while pretending to help the aliens salvage materials. 6 cells, maybe enough to power a short-range transmitter for a few minutes. And Ki-jun found that old communication array in the backup storage room? Yes, but it is damaged. Even if we can get it working, the aliens will detect any transmission immediately. Sung Min nodded. They all knew the risks. The Vorthak had sophisticated monitoring equipment that could track any electronic signal, but they had to try something. The resistance movement had started on the second day of occupation. It began with small acts of sabotage, tools hidden where the aliens could not find them, machinery damaged in ways that looked like accidents, work done slowly and incorrectly. The Vorthak had responded with harsh punishment, but they had not broken human determination. Tonight, Sung Min decided. During the shift change when their guards are distracted, Ki-jun can try to get a message out while the rest of us create diversions. Da-yun looked worried. What if they catch us? Then at least we tried. At least someone will know we did not just give up. Communications specialist Ki-jun had been working on the damaged transmitter for 3 days, hiding in the storage room during his rest periods. The equipment was old and had been damaged in the first alien attack, but he thought he could make it work for a short time. The hardest part was not getting the transmitter working. The hardest part was knowing what to say. Should he tell their families they were still alive? Should he ask for rescue? Should he warn other human colonies about the Vorthak threat? He only had a few seconds before the aliens would trace his signal and shut him down. That evening, as the Vorthak guards changed shifts, Sung-min and the other survivors put their plan into action. Da-eun started an argument with another colonist near the main alien checkpoint, drawing attention from the guards. 2 other miners began fighting over a piece of bread, creating more chaos. While the aliens were distracted, Ki-jun slipped into the storage room and powered up the hidden transmitter. "This is Communications Specialist Yu-jin's assistant Ki-jun, transmitting from Kepler 442b, he whispered into the microphone. 41 humans still alive and working as forced labor. Vorthak forces have approximately 200 ships in orbit. They are strip mining the planet and plan to transport prisoners to slave markets. Do not know how long we can survive. Please, if anyone receives this, do not forget us." The transmission lasted 11 seconds before Vorthak detection systems found him. Energy weapons blasted through the storage room door, and alien soldiers poured inside. They found Ki-jun trying to destroy the transmitter with a metal tool. The punishment was swift and severe. Ki-jun was beaten unconscious and dragged away. The other humans who had created diversions were also punished, but the message had been sent. War Chief Morgathan was not pleased when his intelligence officer reported the unauthorized transmission. "How long was the signal active?" he demanded. 11 seconds, War Chief. We blocked it as soon as our systems detected the transmission. Where did the signal go? Into deep space, toward human territory, but it was very weak, unlikely to reach any monitoring stations. War Chief Morgathan made a dismissive gesture with his claws. These humans are more persistent than most species, but they are still primitives. Even if their message was received, what can they do? Send a few patrol ships to investigate? We will be finished here and gone long before any human fleet could arrive. The war chief was confident in his assessment. In his experience, most species would write off a lost colony rather than risk a larger conflict. The few species that did attempt rescue operations usually sent small, inadequate forces that were easily defeated. Humanity, he was certain, would be no different. War Chief Morgathan had conquered 17 star systems for the Vorthak Empire. He had enslaved 12 different species and destroyed 6 others completely. He understood how galactic politics worked. Strong species took what they wanted from weak species, and weak species either submitted or died. The Vorthak Empire was strong. These humans, with their small colony and primitive defenses, were obviously weak. "Increase the work pace," he ordered his subordinates. "I want this planet stripped clean within 5 days. Then we load the prisoners and move to the next target." "Yes, War Chief. What is our next target?" War Chief Morgathan looked at his star charts. Human colonies were scattered across several systems, most of them lightly defended. The mining operation at Tau Ceti, 57 humans, should be even easier than this one. His subordinates made appreciative sounds. The Vorthak had already identified dozens of human colonies that would make profitable targets. This was just the beginning of a campaign that would bring the Empire great wealth and many slaves. Meanwhile, in the hidden position at the edge of the Kepler system, Captain So Young received Ki-jun's desperate transmission. The signal was weak and filled with static, but the message was clear. 41 humans still alive, she reported to Captain Kim. They are being used as forced labor. The aliens plan to transport them to slave markets. Captain Kim's hands clenched into fists. Slave markets. The words made every human's blood boil. Slavery had been eliminated from human space centuries ago, and the idea that someone would try to enslave humans again was unthinkable. Any word from the rescue fleet? Yes, sir. Admiral J. Wook reports the main battle group will arrive in 18 hours. The advanced scouts are already entering the outer system. 18 hours. Captain Kim looked at the alien ships through his sensors. 18 hours felt like forever when human prisoners were suffering, but it was actually incredibly fast for such a large fleet to travel so far. Sir, the sensor officer called out, I am detecting new ship movements around the planet. The aliens appear to be preparing for departure. Captain Kim studied the tactical display. Several alien ships were moving into transport formation. Others were loading something from the planet's surface. They are loading the prisoners, he realized. They are getting ready to leave with our people. The timing was terrible. If the Vorthak departed before the rescue fleet arrived, tracking them across the galaxy would be almost impossible. The prisoners would disappear into the alien slave markets and never be seen again. Send a priority message to Admiral J. Wook, Captain Kim ordered. Inform him that enemy forces may depart with prisoners before our arrival. Request immediate acceleration of rescue timeline. The message raced through space toward the approaching human fleet. Admiral J. Wook received it while standing on the bridge of his flagship, watching his vast armada prepare for battle. How long until the aliens finish loading prisoners? He asked. Our best estimate is 36 hours, sir, reported his intelligence officer. And how long until our arrival at current speed? 18 hours, sir. Admiral J. Wook nodded. They would arrive in time, but not by much. Signal all ships. Maximum acceleration. I want every ship pushed to its limits. Across the massive fleet, engine outputs increase to dangerous levels. Ships that were never designed to move so fast strained their power systems to keep up. But every captain understood the urgency. Human prisoners were waiting. In engineering sections throughout the fleet, human technicians worked miracles to squeeze more speed from their engines. Safety protocols were ignored. Normal maintenance schedules were abandoned. Nothing mattered except reaching Kepler 442b before the aliens escaped with their human cargo. Back on the planet's surface, the surviving colonists could see increased activity around the alien ships. More transport shuttles were landing. Loading equipment was being brought online. Sungmin watched through a crack in the wall of his work area as Vorthak soldiers herded a group of humans toward a transport shuttle. Among them was Mrs. Park, the shop owner who had always been the heart of their community. Even now, even as a prisoner about to be shipped to alien slave markets, she was helping younger colonists stay calm and brave. They are moving us soon, Da-un whispered beside him. I know. Do you think anyone heard Ki-jun's message? Sungmin looked up at the gray sky where alien ships blocked out the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the atmosphere, human ships might be coming, or they might be completely alone. I think, he said quietly, that we are about to find out what humanity is really made of. He was right. In 18 hours, the Vorthak were going to discover that attacking humans was the worst mistake they had ever made. But first, the prisoners had to survive long enough to be rescued. The next 18 hours would determine whether the human spirit could endure until help arrived. The first human ships arrived like ghosts in the darkness. Admiral Wu Jin commanded the advanced scout group, 12 fast destroyer squadrons that had pushed their engines beyond safe limits to reach Kepler 442b ahead of the main fleet. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the very edge of the star system, their sensors immediately beginning to scan for the enemy. What they found made every human on every bridge stand in stunned silence. "Admiral," reported Captain Yunbi from her destroyer Soul's Vengeance, "sensor readings show massive alien fleet in orbit around Kepler 442b. Count is, Admiral, we are reading over 200 major combat vessels." Admiral Wu Jin studied his tactical display. The alien ships were enormous, much larger than standard human warships. Their design was aggressive and predatory, built for conquest, rather than exploration. This was not a raiding force or a patrol group. This was a full invasion fleet. "Any sign of Captain So Young's reconnaissance ship?" "Yes, sir. Soul's Pride is maintaining position in the outer asteroid belt. They have been observing enemy movements for over a week." Admiral Wu Jin opened a secure communication channel. "Captain Kim, this is Admiral Wu Jin. Please report on enemy disposition and prisoner status." Captain Kim's voice came through clearly, steady despite the circumstances. "Admiral, enemy forces show no awareness of our presence. They have been systematically stripping the planet of resources and are preparing to depart with human prisoners. Our intelligence suggests 41 colonists are still alive and being held aboard transport vessels. Time until enemy departure? Best. Estimate is 8 to 12 hours, sir." Admiral Wu Jin felt cold anger settle in his chest. 8 hours. The main battle fleet would not arrive for another 6 hours, and even then it would take time to coordinate an attack. The timing was going to be very close. "Captain Kim, maintain observation position. We are going to get our people back." While the advanced scouts took up hidden positions throughout the outer system, the main human battle fleet continued its desperate race toward Kepler 442b. Admiral J. Wook stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched as more and more ships joined the formation. The fleet was enormous beyond imagination. Massive dreadnoughts that could destroy entire cities, fast attack cruisers designed for precision strikes, carrier ships loaded with thousands of fighter craft, support vessels carrying enough ammunition to fight a war for years. But size was not the most impressive thing about this fleet. The most impressive thing was its unity. Ships from dozens of different worlds, crewed by humans from hundreds of different cultures, all moving together with perfect coordination toward a single goal. "Status report," Admiral J. Wook ordered. "All battle groups report ready for combat." "Operations," his operations officer replied. "Total fleet count is now 108,000 vessels. We are still receiving volunteers from civilian sectors. 108,000 ships." Admiral J. Wook had studied military history his entire career, and he had never heard of a fleet this large being assembled for any purpose, much less the rescue of 41 civilians. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Final approach to Kepler. System. Combat formations maximum alert. Today, we bring our people home." On Kepler 442b, the Vorthok were completely unaware of the approaching storm. War Chief Morgathon stood in his command center and watched the final loading operations with satisfaction. The planet had been profitable, rare earth minerals, useful, technology, and a shipment of healthy slaves for the markets. "Status of prisoner loading?" he asked. 38 humans secured aboard Transport Vessel 7. 3 more in medical treatment aboard Transport Vessel 3. Medical treatment? 2 humans injured during resistance activities. 1 human injured during loading operations. All will survive for transport to slave markets. War Chief Morgathan made approving noises. Damaged merchandise was worth less, but these humans seemed particularly stubborn. Some injuries were inevitable. Planetary stripping completion? 85% complete. All major resource deposits extracted. Infrastructure salvage nearly finished. Good. Signal the fleet. We depart in 6 hours. The war chief was pleased with the operation. It had gone exactly according to plan. The human colony had been quickly subdued, their communications disabled, their defenses eliminated. No other human forces had appeared to investigate. Soon they would be gone with their cargo, and this system would return to empty silence. He had no way of knowing that human reconnaissance ships were already in the system, counting his vessels and planning his destruction. He had no way of knowing that the largest military fleet in galactic history was only hours away from arrival. And he had no way of knowing that his decision to take human prisoners was about to trigger a response that would reshape the entire galaxy. The Vorthak had never encountered a species like humanity before. Most civilizations, when faced with superior force, would calculate the odds and make rational decisions. They would weigh the cost of resistance against the value of what they were protecting. They would choose the path that preserved the most, lives and resources. Humanity did not make rational decisions when their people were threatened. Humanity made emotional decisions. And human emotions, when focused and directed, could move mountains. Aboard Transport Vessel 7, the human prisoners were crowded into cargo holds designed for equipment, not people. The conditions were terrible. No proper food, little water and air that tasted of metal and chemicals. But the humans had not given up. Sung Min moved carefully through the cramped space, checking on each of his people. Mrs. Park was helping 2 of the younger colonists deal with injuries from their capture. Da-un was trying to comfort a child, who kept crying for her parents. Engineer Ki-jun was conscious again after his beating, though his face was swollen and bruised. "How are you feeling?" Sung Min asked quietly. "Like I was hit by a mining truck," Ki-jun replied with a weak smile. "But I am alive. Did anyone else try to send messages after mine?" "No. They watch us too closely now." Ki-jun nodded. "Do you think anyone heard it?" Before Sung Min could answer, the transport vessel shuddered as its engines came online. Through the small windows, they could see stars beginning to move as the ship prepared for departure. "I guess we are about to find out," Sung Min said. At that exact moment, 6 light hours away, the main human battle fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel and entered the Kepler system. The arrival was not subtle. 108,000 ships appearing simultaneously created gravitational waves that could be detected across half the star system. Energy signatures from their engines lit up every sensor within millions of kilometers. The sheer mass of metal and humanity hanging in space was visible to the naked eye from the inner planets. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Jae-wook watched as his tactical displays updated with information from the advanced scouts. The alien fleet was exactly where intelligence had predicted, orbiting Kepler 442b in a confident formation that suggested they felt completely safe. "Enemy fleet disposition?" he asked. 212 major combat vessels, approximately 50 support ships, and 6 transport vessels. One of the transports shows life signs consistent with human prisoners. "Distance to enemy fleet?" 4 hours at current approach speed, sir." Admiral Jae-wook looked at the massive formation of human ships surrounding his flagship. Ships as far as the eye could see, all armed and ready for battle. It was the most overwhelming display of military force in recorded history. "Signal all ships," he ordered. Final approach. Combat Formation Alpha. Target priority is prisoner rescue, but I want that alien fleet completely destroyed. No survivors. No escape. The orders went out across the human fleet. On thousands of bridges, captains acknowledged their instructions and began final preparations for battle. Weapons were charged, shields were activated, and targeting systems locked onto alien vessels. Captain Yunbi, commanding Soul's Vengeance in the advance group, received her specific orders and smiled grimly. All weapons, target the transport vessels first. We get our people out, then we deal with the rest. Ma'am, her tactical officer reported. We are picking up engine signatures from the alien fleet. They appear to be preparing for departure. Not today, Captain Yunbi said firmly. Signal Admiral J. Wook. Request permission to begin attack run immediately. The response came back within seconds. Permission granted. All ships commence rescue operation. Captain Yunbi looked at her crew. They were young, most of them serving their first combat mission. But their faces showed the same determination she felt. 41 humans were prisoners aboard those alien ships. That was unacceptable. Take us in, she ordered. Maximum speed. Target the transport vessels. Today we show these aliens what happens when they threaten our people. Soul's Vengeance and her squadron mates raced toward the alien fleet, their weapons ready and their purpose clear. Behind them came the largest armada in galactic history, 100,000 ships strong and absolutely determined to bring their people home. The Vorthak were about to learn that attacking humanity was not just a mistake. It was a catastrophe that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. War Chief Morgathan was reviewing final departure preparations when his sensor officer began making urgent alarm sounds. The Vorthak had excellent technology, but nothing had prepared them for what their sensors were now detecting. War Chief, we have massive energy signatures appearing at the system edge. Multiple contacts. Very large contacts. How many contacts? Morgathan demanded, his claws clicking nervously against his command console. Sensors are having difficulty processing. The data, War Chief. Estimate over 100,000 individual vessels. War Chief Morgathan stared at his subordinate in disbelief. Check your equipment. That reading is impossible. Equipment has been checked and rechecked, War Chief. Sensors confirm massive. Fleet approaching our position. Fleet composition includes vessels ranging from small fighters to ships larger than our heaviest dreadnoughts. For the first time in his military career, War Chief Morgathan felt real fear. 100,000 ships was not a rescue mission. It was not even a military operation. It was an act of total war that suggested the complete mobilization of an entire civilization. Identification of approaching vessels? Energy signatures match human technology, War Chief. War Chief Morgathan felt his confidence crumble like dust. Human technology. The same primitive species whose small colony he had just conquered was approaching with a fleet larger than the entire Vorthak Navy. Time until they reach our position? 3 hours, War Chief. 3 hours. War Chief Morgathan looked at his own fleet of 200 ships. They were good ships, veteran crews, proven in dozens of battles. But they were 200 ships facing 100,000. The mathematics were impossible. Signal all vessels. Emergency departure. Maximum speed. We leave immediately. War Chief, the loading operations are not complete. Transport Vessel 7 still has prisoners aboard, and the final resource extraction. Leave it all, War Chief Morgathan snarled. Signal the fleet to abandon everything that cannot move immediately. We depart now or we die here. Across the Vorthak fleet, ships began powering up their engines in panic. Loading operations were abandoned. equipment, was left behind. Some transport vessels were so heavily loaded that they struggled to achieve escape velocity, but they were already too late. Captain Yunbi and her advanced squadron had been watching the alien fleet for the past hour, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When the aliens began their panicked departure, she knew the time had come. All ships, this is Sol's vengeance. Target the transport vessels, disable their engines but avoid damage to prisoner areas. These aliens are not escaping with our people, her. Squadron of 12 destroyers raced toward the alien fleet at maximum speed. Their targeting computers locked onto the 6 transport vessels that intelligence indicated were carrying human prisoners. Tactical Officer Jin Ho coordinated the attack with mathematical precision. Each destroyer targeted specific engine sections of specific ships. The goal was not destruction, but immobilization. They needed those ships intact to rescue the prisoners inside. First salvo, fire. Energy beams lanced out from the human destroyers, striking the transport vessels with surgical accuracy. Alien engines exploded in brilliant flashes of light. One by one, the transports lost power and began drifting helplessly in space. Transport vessel. 7 engine destroyed. Transport vessel. 3 engine destroyed. All 6 transport vessels disabled and drifting. Captain Yunbi allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The prisoners were safe for now, but the battle was just beginning. War Chief Morgathon watched in horror as his transport vessels were systematically disabled by a handful of human ships. The attack was precise, professional, and devastating. These were not primitive raiders. These were skilled military forces operating with advanced technology. "Combat formations!" he ordered. "Destroy those human ships!" Vorthak warships turned to engage the small human squadron. Energy weapons charged. Missile systems locked onto targets. For a moment, it looked like the humans had made a terrible mistake by attacking such a large force with so few ships. Then, the rest of the human fleet arrived. Admiral Jaewook had timed the approach perfectly. Captain Yunbi's attack had forced the Vorthak fleet to reveal their combat capabilities and tactical doctrines. Now it was time to demonstrate what overwhelming force really meant. All ships engage enemy fleet. Priority targets are any vessels attempting to approach the disabled transports. Secondary targets are enemy command ships and heavy cruisers. Tertiary targets are anything else that moves. 108,000 human ships opened fire simultaneously. The space around. Kepler 442b lit up like a newborn star. Energy beams, missile swarms, and exotic weapons that bent the laws of physics itself reached out toward the Vorthak fleet. The aliens had never seen anything like it. No one in the galaxy had ever seen anything like it. Vorthak shields, designed to withstand normal military engagement, collapsed instantly under the incredible volume of fire. Entire alien warships simply vanished, vaporized by weapons that delivered more energy than most stars produced in a day. Major Yejin led the Marine, boarding parties that launched from human assault ships toward the disabled transport vessels. Her soldiers moved in powered armor that made them nearly invincible against conventional weapons. Their mission was simple: rescue every human prisoner and secure evidence of Vorthak war crimes. Transport vessel 7 secured, she reported, over the tactical network. 38 human prisoners recovered, all alive, some injured, but all will survive. Transport vessel 3 secured, 3 human prisoners in medical bay, stable condition. One by one, the transport vessels were boarded and the prisoners were rescued. 41 humans who had spent over a week as slaves were finally free. But Admiral J. Wook was not satisfied with just rescue. "Intelligence Commander Dae-hyun, what can you tell me about this alien fleet?" Commander Dae-hyun had been analyzing captured Vorthak data while the battle raged around them. What he found made his blood boil with anger. "Admiral, these aliens call themselves the Vorthak Empire. According to their records, they have conquered 17 star systems and enslaved 12 different species. The humans from Kepler 442b were intended for slave markets in the Vorthak home system." "Slave markets." Admiral J. Wook's voice was deadly quiet. "What else?" "They have detailed plans for attacking more human colonies. Tau Ceti was their next target. After that, they plan to systematically raid every human settlement in this sector." Admiral J. Wook looked at the tactical display. The Vorthak fleet was being systematically destroyed, but some ships were still trying to escape. That was unacceptable. "Fleet Captain In Sung, take Battle Group 7 and pursue any fleeing vessels. I want their home system coordinates. I want to know where they came from and how many more of them there are." "Yes, sir. What are our rules of engagement?" "Total destruction. No prisoners. No mercy. These aliens chose to threaten human civilians and enslave human families. They have forfeited any right to survival. The human fleet spread out across the Kepler system like an unstoppable tide. Fleeing Vorthak ships were hunted down and destroyed. Those that tried to surrender were destroyed. Those that tried to hide were found and destroyed. But Admiral J. Wook was thinking beyond this single battle. Intelligence Commander Dae-hyun had provided him with detailed information about the Vorthak Empire, including the locations of their major military bases and slave markets. "Dr. Hyun-A," he called over the command network to the head of Human Strategic Command. "I am transmitting Vorthak military intelligence to Earth Command. Recommend immediate expansion of Operation Homecoming." "Expansion how?" came the reply from Earth. "These aliens have enslaved 12 different species and plan to enslave humanity. I recommend we liberate everyone they have ever captured and eliminate their ability to threaten anyone ever again." There was a pause while Dr. Hyun-A considered the implications. What Admiral J. Wook was suggesting was not just a rescue mission or even a military operation. He was suggesting the complete destruction of an entire interstellar empire. "Approved," came the response. "How many ships do you need?" Admiral J. Wook looked at his current fleet of 108,000 vessels, then at the intelligence. Data showing Vorthak military installations across multiple star systems. "All of them," he replied. "I want every ship humanity can build, every weapon we can deploy, and every soldier we can field. Today we rescue our 41 colonists. Tomorrow we make sure this never happens to anyone ever again." Science Officer. Hae-won was documenting everything. Every Vorthak war crime, every human response, every moment of the battle. This information would be broadcast across the galaxy as a warning to every species that might consider threatening humanity. "Status on galactic response to our operation?" Admiral J. Wook asked. "Multiple species are monitoring our activities," Hae-won reported. "The Zentran Federation has requested an explanation for our military movements. The Trillic Empire has offered to mediate peaceful resolution." "Signal all galactic powers," Admiral J. Wook ordered. "Broadcast this message on all diplomatic frequencies. Any species that harms human civilians will face the complete military might of humanity. Any species that enslaves or threatens our people will be eliminated. This is not a negotiation. This is a promise." War Chief Morgathan was reviewing final departure preparations when his sensor officer began making urgent alarm sounds. The Vorthak had excellent technology, but nothing had prepared them for what their sensors were now detecting. "War Chief, We have massive energy signatures appearing at the system edge. Multiple contacts. Very large contacts. How many contacts? Morgathan demanded, his claws clicking nervously against his command console. Sensors are having difficulty processing. The data, War Chief. Estimate over 100,000 individual vessels. War Chief Morgathan stared at his subordinate in disbelief. Check your equipment. That reading is impossible. Equipment has been checked and rechecked, War Chief. Sensors confirm massive. Fleet approaching our position. Fleet composition includes vessels ranging from small fighters to ships larger than our heaviest dreadnoughts. For the first time in his military career, War Chief Morgathan felt real fear. 100,000 ships was not a rescue mission. It was not even a military operation. It was an act of total war that suggested the complete mobilization of an entire civilization. Identification of approaching vessels? Energy signatures match human technology, War Chief. War Chief Morgathan felt his confidence crumble like dust. Human technology. The same primitive species whose small colony he had just conquered was approaching with a fleet larger than the entire Vorthak Navy. Time until they reach our position? 3 hours, War Chief. 3 hours. War Chief Morgathan looked at his own fleet of 200 ships. They were good ships, veteran crews, proven in dozens of battles. But they were 200 ships facing 100,000. The mathematics were impossible. Signal all vessels. Emergency departure. Maximum speed. We leave immediately. War Chief, the loading operations are not complete. Transport Vessel 7 still has prisoners aboard, and the final resource extraction. Leave it all, War Chief Morgathan snarled. Signal the fleet to abandon everything that cannot move immediately. We depart now or we die here. Across the Vorthak fleet, ships began powering up their engines in panic. Loading operations were abandoned. Equipment was left behind. Some transport vessels were so heavily loaded that they struggled to achieve escape velocity. But they were already too late. Captain Yunbi and her advanced squadron had been watching the alien fleet for the past hour, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When the aliens began their panicked departure, she knew the time had come. All ships, this is Sol's vengeance. Target the transport vessels, disable their engines but avoid damage to prisoner areas. These aliens are not escaping with our people, her. Squadron of 12 destroyers raced toward the alien fleet at maximum speed. Their targeting computers locked onto the 6 transport vessels that intelligence indicated were carrying human prisoners. Tactical Officer Jin Ho coordinated the attack with mathematical precision. Each destroyer targeted specific engine sections of specific ships. The goal was not destruction, but immobilization. They needed those ships intact to rescue the prisoners inside. First salvo, fire. Energy beams lanced out from the human destroyers, striking the transport vessels with surgical accuracy. Alien engines exploded in brilliant flashes of light. One by one, the transports lost power and began drifting helplessly in space. Transport vessel. 7 engine destroyed. Transport vessel. 3 engine destroyed. All 6 transport vessels disabled and drifting. Captain Yunbi allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The prisoners were safe for now, but the battle was just beginning. War Chief Morgathan watched in horror as his transport vessels were systematically disabled by a handful of human ships. The attack was precise, professional, and devastating. These were not primitive raiders. These were skilled military forces operating with advanced technology. "Combat formations!" he ordered. "Destroy those human ships!" Vorthak warships turned to engage the small human squadron. energy weapons charged, missile systems locked onto targets. For a moment, it looked like the humans had made a terrible mistake by attacking such a large force with so few ships. Then, the rest of the human fleet arrived. Admiral Jae-wook had timed the approach perfectly. Captain Yunbi's attack had forced the Vorthak fleet to reveal their combat capabilities and tactical doctrines. Now it was time to demonstrate what overwhelming force really meant. All ships engage enemy fleet. Priority targets are any vessels attempting to approach the disabled transports. Secondary targets are enemy command ships and heavy cruisers. Tertiary targets are anything else that moves. 108,000 human ships opened fire simultaneously. The space around. Kepler 442b lit up like a newborn star. Energy beams, missile swarms, and exotic weapons that bent the laws of physics itself reached out toward the Vorthak fleet. The aliens had never seen anything like it. No one in the galaxy had ever seen anything like it. Vorthak shields, designed to withstand normal military engagement, collapsed instantly under the incredible volume of fire. Entire alien warships simply vanished, vaporized by weapons that delivered more energy than most stars produced in a day. Major Yejin led the Marine, boarding parties that launched from human assault ships toward the disabled transport vessels. Her soldiers moved in powered armor that made them nearly invincible against conventional weapons. Their mission was simple: rescue every human prisoner and secure evidence of Vorthak war crimes. Transport vessel 7 secured, she reported, over the tactical network. 38 human prisoners recovered, all alive, some injured, but all will survive. Transport vessel 3 secured, 3 human prisoners in medical bay, stable condition. One by one, the transport vessels were boarded and the prisoners were rescued. 41 humans who had spent over a week as slaves were finally free. But Admiral Jae-wook was not satisfied with just rescue. Intelligence Commander Dae-hyun, what can you tell me about this alien fleet? Commander Dae-hyun had been analyzing captured Vorthak data while the battle raged around them. What he found made his blood boil with anger. Admiral, these aliens call themselves the Vorthak Empire. According to their records, they have conquered 17 star systems and enslaved 12 different species. The humans from Kepler 442b were intended for slave markets in the Vorthak home system. Slave markets. Admiral Jae-wook's voice was deadly quiet. What else? They have detailed plans for attacking more human colonies. Tau Ceti was their next target. After that, they planned to systematically raid every human settlement in this sector. Admiral Jae-wook looked at the tactical display. The Vorthak fleet was being systematically destroyed, but some ships were still trying to escape. That was unacceptable. Fleet Captain In Sung, take Battle Group 7 and pursue any fleeing vessels. I want their home system coordinates. I want to know where they came from and how many more of them there are. Yes, sir. What are our rules of engagement? Total destruction. No prisoners. No mercy. These aliens chose to threaten human civilians and enslave human families. They have forfeited any right to survival. The human fleet spread out across the Kepler system like an unstoppable tide. Fleeing Vorthak ships were hunted down and destroyed. Those that tried to surrender were destroyed. Those that tried to hide were found and destroyed. But Admiral Jae-wook was thinking beyond this single battle. Intelligence Commander Dae-hyun had provided him with detailed information about the Vorthak Empire, including the locations of their major military bases and slave markets. Dr. Hyun-ae, he called over the command network to the head of Human Strategic Command. I am transmitting Vorthak military intelligence to Earth Command. Recommend immediate expansion of Operation Homecoming. Expansion how? Came the reply from Earth. These aliens have enslaved 12 different species and plan to enslave humanity. I recommend we liberate everyone they have ever captured and eliminate their ability to threaten anyone ever again. There was a pause while Dr. Hyun-ai considered the implications. What Admiral Jae-wook was suggesting was not just a rescue mission or even a military operation. He was suggesting the complete destruction of an entire interstellar empire. Approved, came the response. How many ships do you need? Admiral Jae-wook looked at his current fleet of 108,000 vessels, then at the intelligence. Data showing Vorthak military installations across multiple star systems. All of them, he replied. I want every ship humanity can build, every weapon we can deploy, and every soldier we can field. Today we rescue our 41 colonists. Tomorrow we make sure this never happens to anyone ever again. Science Officer. Hae-won was documenting everything. Every Vorthak war crime, every human response, every moment of the battle. This information would be broadcast across the galaxy as a warning to every species that might consider threatening humanity. Status on galactic response to our operation? Admiral Jae-wook asked. Multiple species are monitoring our activities, Hae-won reported. The Zentran Federation has requested an explanation for our military movements. The Trillic Empire has offered to mediate peaceful resolution. Signal all galactic powers, Admiral Jae-wook ordered. Broadcast this message on all diplomatic frequencies. Any species that harms human civilians will face the complete military might of humanity. Any species that enslaves or threatens our people will be eliminated. This is not a negotiation. This is a promise. 6 months after the destruction of the Vorthak Empire, Ambassador Yuna stood before the Galactic Council and delivered humanity's new doctrine to representatives of every major spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. The Great Chamber was packed, beyond capacity, with delegations from hundreds of species listening in respectful silence. The political landscape of the galaxy had changed completely. Where once there had been dozens of competing powers maintaining a delicate balance through diplomacy and limited warfare, now there was humanity and everyone else. Honored delegates, Ambassador Yuna began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. 6 months ago, 43 human civilians were attacked on a peaceful mining colony. In response, humanity mobilized the largest military force in galactic history and completely eliminated the threat. Today, I am here to explain why this response was not excessive, but necessary. The chamber remained silent. Everyone present had studied the human military campaign, the speed, the scale, the absolute thoroughness of the Vorthak Empire's destruction had redefined what galactic warfare could look like. Humanity operates under a simple principle. We are peaceful, but we are not helpless. We prefer diplomacy to conflict, trade to conquest, cooperation to domination. But when our people are threatened, when innocent beings are enslaved or murdered, when civilizations choose predation over peaceful coexistence, we respond with overwhelming force. Ambassador Yuna paused, letting her words sink in. Representatives from dozens of species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Many had witnessed the destruction of the Vorthak Empire through long-range sensors. Others had received detailed reports from their intelligence services. All of them understood that the galaxy now operated under new rules. The Vorthak Empire enslaved 12 species and murdered millions of innocent beings. They planned to expand their operations into human space, turning our civilians into slaves for their markets. They made the mistake of believing that because humanity spreads peacefully across the galaxy, we would not defend ourselves with absolute determination. In the diplomatic viewing gallery, Admiral Dong Min watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. The military phase of humanity's response was complete, but the political phase was just beginning. Every species in the galaxy needed to understand the new reality. Some of you have suggested that humanity's response was excessive, Ambassador, Yuna continued. You argue that destroying an entire interstellar empire to rescue 43 civilians was disproportionate. You are wrong. The number of humans threatened was never the issue. The issue was that any humans were threatened at all. The Zentran, Federation's lead diplomat, raised one of his forearms to request permission to speak. Ambassador Yuna nodded acknowledgement. Ambassador Yuna, while the Zentran Federation sympathizes with humanity's desire to protect your people, we must ask about proportionality. The Vorthak Empire controlled 17 star systems. Surely a more limited response could have achieved your rescue objectives? Ambassador Yuna looked directly at the Zentran diplomat. Counselor Zeltar, how many of your people would you sacrifice to rescue 17 Zentran colonies from slavers? That is not a fair comparison. It is exactly the right comparison. The Vorthak Empire had enslaved millions of beings and planned to enslave millions more. They had the military capability to conquer human colonies and the demonstrated willingness to use that capability. Limited response would have meant temporary rescue followed by renewed attacks. Complete elimination of the threat means permanent safety for everyone. On Earth, in the rebuilt colony of New Sol, on Kepler 442b, Engineer Da-Un watched the diplomatic proceedings on her tablet while overseeing the construction of new mining facilities. The colony was larger now, better defended, and connected to a network of patrol ships that ensured nothing like the Vorthak attack could ever happen again. They are still arguing about whether we used too much force, she said to Han Sol, who was supervising the installation of new atmospheric processors. Han Sol shook his head. They did not spend 8 days as prisoners. They did not see the slave markets or the prison camps. If they had, they would understand why every Vorthak installation needed to be destroyed. Around them, the colony buzzed with activity. New families had arrived to replace those who chose to relocate to safer worlds. Advanced defensive systems had been installed. Most importantly, everyone knew that if danger came again, the entire might of human civilization would respond within hours, not days. Mrs. Park, who had chosen to stay and rebuild her shop, looked up at the gray sky where human patrol ships moved in regular patterns. I sleep better knowing they are up there, she told anyone who would listen. My family back on Earth sleeps better too. Everyone sleeps better knowing that no human will ever be abandoned again. Back at the Galactic Council, the Trillic Empire's representative was attempting a different approach. Ambassador Yuna, surely humanity recognizes that your military response has fundamentally altered the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy. Many species are concerned about humanity's apparent willingness to use extreme force. Ambassador Yuna turned to address the broader assembly. Let me be absolutely clear about humanity's position. We have no desire to conquer other species or expand our territory through force. We have no interest in ruling over unwilling populations or extracting tribute from weaker civilizations. But we will not tolerate threats to human civilians, and we will not ignore the enslavement or murder of innocent beings by any species anywhere in the galaxy. She activated a holographic display that showed the current deployment of human military forces. patrol fleets were stationed throughout former Vorthak territory, protecting the liberated populations while they rebuilt their civilizations. Rapid response forces were positioned at strategic points across human space. Deep space monitoring stations watched for any signs of aggressive activity by hostile species. These forces exist for one purpose: to ensure that what happened to our colonists on Kepler 442b never happens to anyone again. Any species that chooses to engage in slavery, piracy, or unprovoked attacks on civilian populations will face the same fate as the Vorthak Empire. The chamber erupted in worried whispers as delegates realized the full implications of what they were hearing. Humanity was not just claiming the right to defend their own people, they were claiming the right to police the entire galaxy in the name of protecting innocent life. Councillor Velmoth of the Zentran Federation stood up. Ambassador Yuna, you are essentially declaring humanity the guardian of galactic peace. By what authority do you make such a claim? Ambassador Yuna's response was simple and devastating. By the authority of overwhelming force applied in service of moral principle. For too long, this galaxy has operated under the assumption that might makes right, that strong species can prey upon weak ones without consequence. Humanity rejects that assumption. We have demonstrated our capability to enforce a different standard. Any species that disagrees is welcome to test our resolve. On the industrial world of New Shanghai, weapons factories continued operating at maximum capacity even though the immediate threat had been eliminated. Dr. Hyun Ai had learned from studying Vorthak intelligence that there were other predatory species in distant parts of the galaxy. The Kreth Dominion controlled slave markets in the galactic core. The Mortok clans practiced ritual genocide against inferior species. Humanity's work was far from finished. Production status on the new fleet construction, she asked her logistics coordinator. On schedule for completion within 18 months. The new vessels incorporate technology recovered from Vorthak installations and improvements developed during the recent campaign. Each ship will be 50% more effective than current designs. Dr. Hune nodded. Humanity was building not just for current threats, but for future challenges. The galaxy was vast, and there were undoubtedly other predatory species that had not yet encountered human space. When they did, humanity would be ready. Back at the Galactic Council, Ambassador Yu Na was concluding her address with humanity's final offer to the assembled civilizations. Humanity offers every species in this galaxy a simple choice. Join us in building a civilization based on mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and the protection of innocent life. Trade with us, explore with us, learn with us. We will share our technology, our knowledge, and our protection with anyone who chooses the path of peace. She paused, her expression becoming colder. Or choose predation, slavery, and violence. Choose to threaten innocent beings for profit or pleasure. Choose to see other species as resources to be exploited rather than partners to be respected. If you make that choice, you will face the same fate as the Vorthak Empire. You will be eliminated completely and without mercy. The chamber fell into complete silence. Every delegate understood that they had just witnessed the most important moment in galactic history since the formation of the first interstellar governments. The age of unlimited warfare between competing species was over. The age of human supremacy had begun.